process, and so we are definitely willing to meet in different schools, different places, whatever we can work out. We would like maybe to start with Article 1, and Ms. Timpson emailed me today, and she also had a request, and I thought that was awesome. So I have put Article 2 discussion because they felt like if they might even be ready to go over some of those things with us, just to have a discussion. I thought that would be a good way for us to go ahead and get this process started. So, Ms. Timpson, I do appreciate your email and what you sent.
Well, it's Brian that you have to appreciate. Because
okay. Thank you.
He did all the legwork for Article 2.
So
we can take our time on Article 1.
So that's where we're at. I think the next thing would be for us to go around the room and introduce ourselves. So,
Let's start.
yes, please.
And watch me go. Okay. I am Julia Gibson, the president of Cumberland County Education Association, but on this panel, I'm just a regular member like everybody else because nobody really has a title here. We're all here to work together as a team, and I'm very excited to work with all of you on our Memorandum of Understanding.
Mike DeBiccaro, Cumberland County High School. I think I know everybody in this room, so I'm just happy to be here also.
I'm Kim Wattenbarger. I am the librarian at Stone Memorial High School. CCEA's vice president, but here I'm just everybody else, just a teacher. And I'm excited to start this process so that we can take care of everybody.
I'm Blake Barnett. I teach kindergarten at Martin Elementary, and I've been a CCEA member for a long time, but this is my first time involved in this process, so I'm excited.
I'm Gail Reed. I teach kindergarten at Crab Orchard, and I've been teaching so long. I've been teaching 47 years, since 1974, and I've been a member every year since my first year of teaching. I think representing teachers and being an advocate for teachers, you're also advocating for children, because when teachers are happy and taken care of, it makes their job a lot easier.
Mr. Lowe.
I'm Mitch Lowe. I'm the principal of the Phoenix School, and this is also my first opportunity to serve on this.
And I'm Stephanie Barnes, previous principal at Phoenix School, but now I work at Central, and this should be interesting. I'm ready.
Tony Brock, retired teacher. Let's not forget that. Currently on the school board, I imagine, as far as my participation.
I'm Jim Inman. I'm on the school board, and I'm a retired school teacher. And Mr. Brock and I have had the privilege of serving on the CCEA side before. And now it's our turn to be on this side.
Feels good.
Don't get confused.
Let's just keep it a circle.
Oh, be confused?
Stay confused.
Never.
My name is Brian Reeves. I work at Stone at Memorial High School. I'm a math teacher there. This is my second go around with collective conversation. So I'm happy to be here as well. And to serve the teachers as well.
I'm Kim Bray. I'm the HR director for Cumberland County Schools, and this will be my first time to ever participate in this, and I'm very anxious to go through the process.
I'm Casey Harris, a former teacher and the Chief Financial Officer here at Central. Glad to be here.
Y'all probably can't hear me, my voice is still shy. I'm Becky Smith. I teach at Stone Memorial High School. I'm a lover of Golden Girls masks, in case you all didn't know. And I'm a total newbie to this process, but really excited to go through it. So.
That's awesome. And because I am a newbie and I didn't know. Oh, I'm a Maxwell, and I told the employee advisory committee just a few minutes ago, I'm a teacher. I mean, that's who I am. That's what I own. So, you know, if we can help children, and I want to help everyone to be able to help
state law, we are supposed to send out a notice to all the teachers, but I did not do that this time because I knew it was just like an organizational kind of thing. And I didn't know with the rules for meetings either. So I didn't know if they're allowed to come, if they're, so.
Well, I think that was a good move, just because we don't need to squeeze a lot of people in this little bitty room right now. As much as everybody is trying to open up, I think we still need to be careful.
Well, for the next time, I mean, we could always do Facebook Live if you want to do it that way. We are just supposed to let them know. So, you know, whether they tune in or no, that's their business.
Well, and like Ms. Kinnison said, this is organizational purposes, just to know where we're going to be the next time and all of those things. So, she was so kind to email me the ground rules that were used last time in the flagship conference, and that'll be the second page in your agenda packet. And then we also have been working on some proposed meeting norms. And so I think the first thing we need to do is organize what those will be. What exactly is the title of those? Do they call them the ground rules?
Yes.
So I'll give everyone a few minutes to read through those, and that's great. I think there's a lot of similarity between the two, actually.
Well, it is similar.
When you look through suggestions, comments.
Can we start off with whether it should be 5 or 4 members?
That's where I would go.
And
I'm fine with 5 if everybody's okay with. I like odd numbers better than even numbers, but you know.
Bob?
I think that's it. We'll go with 5. 5. Of course, I think each team will have the same number of members vote on decisions. I think that's a idea with what was the two very similar. 2/3 majority, I didn't see that on.
Before we go to that, can I ask something? On the, each team has the same number of members vote. Before, if I remember correctly, if one side, okay, we got 7 on each team, right? So if our side only had 6, then you would only have 6 to vote, correct? Okay. In the same way, vice versa.
Right.
Okay. As long as we're going to do it that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we do it that way?
Good to me.
Well, because things happen, things come up, not everybody can be at every single meeting, so it just evens the playing field. But what we did too was, even if we had 7 and 7, one person from each team served as the facilitator. So that way, if somebody is going off in left field, let's bring this back, that they didn't vote. You know, they didn't have to vote that meeting, because they were just really there like as a mediator to say, we need to rein that in or stop talking or, you know, whatever, so.
Well, we can do that without a facilitator.
We just had someone appointed.
Between me and Kim, we can keep everybody around.
Well. He's the facilitator.
Are you saying you want to be our facilitator, Mr. Evans?
I don't want to not get to vote though.
They're trying to
Hold
say
on
if there's
now.
14 members out of 14.
I don't want to be a facilitator if I can't vote.
They should have 5 every time.
At least, yeah. The only thing, the 2/3 majority, the way we did it was just all agreements we made by consensus. And so we just voted thumbs up or thumbs down and the majority won.
Yeah. We didn't put a
put a number on it, I guess. We weren't quantifying it to that degree. Now, if you want to, it's fine. It's just, we just did majority. And, you know, sideways was, I don't care one way or the other, so.
I don't have a problem with majority rule.
It's hard to get 2/3 of any group to
Yep.
agree on it.
That's right.
Ask Congress.
So if you're okay with our number 3, that, you know, it'll be made by consensus.
I really like, everyone in the room that you've already alluded to that. We're all here working for the same goals. And I do like, that's why we, you know, just, we wanted to have a circle, and that's what we tried to do the best we could given the facility that we got.
Right.
So I think that's really important.
Because in the old days, when Mr. Inman and Mr. Brock, it was all the employees were on one side and all the management teams on the other, and it felt like a us versus them
Yeah, very
kind of situation.
adversarial. Yeah.
We don't feel like that with you guys anyway.
It was adversarial.
Well, this
So
is going to be very positive because we are all after the same thing.
That's right.
And, you know, there's going to be times that we all in the room may agree, and there may be times that every one of us disagree. I mean, but that's where this is so critical and important for our kids and our community and our stakeholders to see that we can come together and work collaboratively. I think this is a golden opportunity we have for our district, so I'm just pleased to be here. Hey, you're making good progress, somebody
We're doing
else
good.
speak up.
So just a point of clarification, on number 3 then, you're saying that all agreements will be made by majority rule? Which is really different than consensus.
Majority.
That is different.
Okay, tell me the difference.
To me, consensus means that everyone, like in a thumbs up, thumbs down, everyone would be a thumbs up or sideways. And if you had one thumbs down, then it would not pass
Because that's not what we did the last time.
What's that?
So we did majority the last time?
Yes.
Because that's what we, okay.
We did majority.
So we can change that word to majority.
Now, with an equal number, there will be a chance of a tie. So how do we address that? Just with more discussion?
That's, yeah.
Or table it for
Table it for
future
discussion.
Table it, bring it back up.
Later.
Yeah.
Okay. So in case of a tie, we'll be tabled for further
For
discussion.
further discussion.
Rather than trying to belabor it.
Okay.
I like their number 4, but I'd like to add to that, the one on ours that only collected 15 members allowed to speak.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
So add to their number 4.
Your
4, bullet. Okay.
And I think that was understood always, but you're right, it does need to go in there.
Well, if it's in there, everybody knows about it.
Yep. Agree.
I remember being at the meetings for Stone Library, and And I wasn't allowed to say that.
That was fun.
Yes, it was.
Gag order.
It was for our facilitator.
Yeah. No, I was the instigator.
You know, I think we're already fortunate to have a respectful climate and respect for each other and what we do. Meeting times, each meeting will begin. What is a good time for everyone?
Do we want to set a specific time in case we have to, it has to vary from time to time? Can we just not just put a time limit? We can do an hour and a half, 2 hours, or whatever y'all want to do.
Hour and a half is good, yeah.
But, I mean, if we say that meetings have to start at 4 o'clock, then something happens and over half of us can be there till 4:30, then we've tied our hands, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And if we just say that, you know, that it won't last more than an hour and a half or 2 hours, then we can start it, finish it whenever we need to. Is that all right?
And we can decide that in
Each
this
time.
meeting when the next meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Time and date,
Yeah.
place. Thank you.
Is it easier to do it on like one of the meetings to be on a board meeting night so that it's easier maybe on them or not?
It's not any easier on us. So, I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about Mr. Brock.
It really depends on what the board chair has planned for that evening, Mr. Emmett.
Well, and I don't hardly know tonight that you're not meeting here for something. So,
Well, I can be here anytime.
I like it personally. I mean, so it does two duties in one day.
one day.
Kind of like having bus duty and ball game duty same day. It's shot in.
All right, but if we have, what happens if we have a meeting out at Stone Memorial High School?
Well, we'll try to accommodate,
Yeah.
if it's a board meeting day, to do it here, so that you don't have to breakneck speed, you know,
Okay.
drive like me.
Yeah. Well, see, that was gonna be my question. If we're at Stone Memorial High School, and it's on a board meeting night, and we meet until 5:30, it kinda goes over.
Yeah, that
So-
would make it too difficult.
Do we
I
want
can't get here in
to,
30 minutes.
do we want to
They might start the
just
meeting without us.
strike hour 5, use your, the meetings will have a 2-hour limit, but do we want to say 2 hour, or we want to say an hour and a half?
It's up to y'all. I don't care. We can do an hour and a half, or we do 2 hours,
I'd
whatever.
rather if we're here, plow through, rather than, you know, coming back. We can get as much done in one meeting, I would prefer. to
Just
get
because it
things
says
done.
2 hours doesn't mean it.
Doesn't mean you have to stay 2 hours.
Okay.
And while we're kind of on that discussion note, what if we made the decision, I mean, here we have the mics and the technology set up, as long as we are under the public can't come in, so we're going to put it out there and record it. It's a little bit easier to do it here, but if that is offensive or not fair, I mean, I'm fine with going somewhere else, but what do you all think about that?
We have the technology as it makes us to do somewhat.
In the auditorium, but I don't think that we would have this many mics.
Well, I have been told that you don't have this many mics.
No.
And I have been told that to do it at Stone Memorial High School, the way
He tried to have
the
another
technology
meeting.
people would have to set up in the auditorium,
Yeah.
that they'd be way back in the back, and we would look like little
Ants.
ants on the stage.
Let's keep it real,
And
yeah.
We just don't have the technology for it. And that's the reason we were pushing to try to get some mics and a sound system at Martin. And hopefully we'd be able to, we'd have enough mics to be able to do it there at some point in time.
Sure.
I don't know how far along we are on that process.
restrictions are lifted?
Yes, I'm good with that. Are you good with that, Joy? Mike?
But if you can work through the issues or help us
Yeah.
work through the issues,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
we'll be here when you are.
And I would also like to revisit the majority issue on the votes. Just for a little bit more discussion, because I think I'll kick myself tonight when I'm going to bed if I don't bring it up. It worries me a little bit that perhaps there's, a proposal on the table, and let's say it deals with HR, and Kim has that, knowledge and knows that there's problems with that. It's a no-go, so she's gonna vote no. And I don't know that much about HR, and I give it a thumbs up, and, say the teacher team all gives it a thumbs up, then we've just agreed to something that really might be a bad idea. So I kind of like having that extra person on either side to agree or to disagree to make it, I guess, a complicated majority.
My one issue with that is that, using Ms. Bray as an example, she has the opportunity to give her expertise and that we would all listen to. So now you're making her a veto vote just because she's the HR. That would give everyone a veto vote, whatever your expertise is finance, that would give you the veto vote on finance. I mean, is that what you're saying? That if she gives it a thumbs down and everyone else gives it a thumbs up, that's it?
No, I'm saying just me and at least one other person on my team is gonna have to think that's a really good idea. Right, instead of just me. That's a lot of weight on just me to get that ball rolling, right? I mean, that's what I'm understanding, right? Like, or flip it, say, the admin team had a proposal and everybody on the teacher team thought it was, a bad idea, or a good idea, or I guess a bad idea. It just takes one person to say yes, and to me, I feel a little better having two minds say yes rather than one mind say yes and it be a done deal. Not so much about veto power. So I mean, Tony could be my second yes, and then Kim would have to explain to us why it was a bad idea, later. Does that make sense?
I'm not understanding, because if it's an odd number on each side and it's a majority rules, I'm not understanding how it would take two people on each side to bounce something off. I don't know.
I've got to look at it with numbers.
Right.
Okay. Y'all gonna have to help me. I'm not good with numbers. So there's 14 of us, right? So in order for something to pass, it's got to have a majority. So we'd have to have 8.
Yep.
So what she's basically saying is that if, say, all the teachers, so that's 7, all of y'all vote yes, then just one of us votes yes. Like she's saying in her situation, that her example, if she votes yes, then it passes. But Kim may know something different, that it's not good. But I'm like Mike. That's what we're here for with discussion. We've got to have that discussion, so that's the reason we've got everybody's different expertise, so that you can enlighten us. Okay, so but now that's where the way I understand what you're saying. Is that
yes.
right?
Articulated very well.
Whoa, articulate.
And I think that's why the original consensus was that, which is strong, a strong vote, meaning that no one, if just one thumbs down, would actually cancel any approval of that particular motion or vote.
And we've been here forever.
So that's, and I think that's why consensus was in there originally.
We had lots of votes that were unanimous.
So.
Define consensus.
Well, that's what I was meaning. Consensus to me means that everyone's willing to support it, even though it may not be in favor
you don't have consensus.
That's what consensus means to me.
So last time did we do, if you did middle of the road,
That was good.
then we kind of stop and say, okay,
That was almost like passing.
or did we, I kind of
We just went by the majority vote last time. So if we had 10 people voting and say 8 voted for it, 3 voted against it, or 2 voted against it, then it still passed.
Didn't we have some time to explain, like, if I say this, then?
When we voted.
We did, we talked a lot.
Yeah, yeah, like what
When we
my problem
voted.
is with, or what my concern is.
I think it got down to the easier topics, majority, I mean, I'd say the vast majority were all thumbs up. When we got down to some of the little harder topics, finance, related to HR policies, that's when we got into thumbs up and thumbs down, and that's where we went to the majority. So it really, it's up to the group as to decide what's going to pass in the day.
Question. Casey, you're a financial officer. If there's an issue concerning money that might possibly come up during this discussion,
Perhaps.
you obviously could offer a lot of insight to everyone, but in particular, since you're on one side of the table, I mean, would it be acceptable at that point? Would we call for a break where she might explain what issues are involved?
Except
but
that-
I'm just thinking you could easily be in the same situation with.
Well, except that she's just supposed to explain to all of us.
Correct.
It's not like the old days where we would take, and go over here and discuss what, it's just, it's not even supposed to be adversarial at all. If she knows something and she says, guys, we just can't afford to do that. We can't afford to give all of you $1 million and a trip to Hawaii this year. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. And she explains, and this is why, because we have this much money. Then we just, okay,
I'll take Disney World.
well.
And I love the idea
Yeah.
as long as both sides.
Yeah.
And because I mean.
Yeah, we just have to hear it and see, because I don't know what Casey, I don't know her knowledge. I come to the board meeting, so I know what she does and I know her reports and things like that, but I don't have to do that job. So it's better for her just to say, here it is in black and white. This is what we've got, So we don't have to do those private chats anymore like we used to.
It just, I can't tell you the number of times that I've had what I thought was a brilliant idea, and there's no money for it, or it's illegal with Cumberland. you can't do that. So,
that's all they have to do is say, there's no money for it, and that's illegal.
okay.
Yeah.
Didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I like it.
Well,
I
We're
think
gonna
we
be
need
open.
to have down
But-
well,
what it's gonna be.
I looked it up. Consensus
Okay.
is a general agreement about something, an idea or opinion that is shared by all the people in a group. So Brian would be correct that if one person said no, then it wouldn't go through. So I don't like it.
I don't like that. I don't like that either.
That's why we changed it to majority.
Yeah. But I understand where Casey's coming from.
And I think Casey does have a great point, because there are some things that I think the expert in the room, probably their opinion should have a little more weight to it.
Nobody argues that.
And so if we just go with majority, it works both ways,
But the problem, Obama, the problem is, if you allow one person who's the expert to veto something, because it's going to come down to money. Somebody may say, we don't have the money to do this. Well, we don't know. That's up to the board. That's up to, maybe there's savings elsewhere. To say we don't have the money right now for something is one thing. So for someone to be able to veto something without any research, without any discussion, in my opinion, allows one person based on for whatever reason to kill something, and I don't think one person killing something, regardless of their expertise in this room, is prudent in a collaborative conferencing type setting. Veto power by one person is not, it's just something I don't think is prudent in a collaborative conference setting. That's just me.
Well, and even with 2/3 majority, it would take more than one person to veto.
Right, but we didn't do
I don't want
2/3.
veto power,
But we didn't do
or anything
2/3
like that,
majority.
but you would still need,
But we didn't agree to 2/3 majority. We said majority.
right, I was just talking about my thoughts.
Right.
Well, and I think this is why it's gonna be so successful, because we're gonna respect each other and listen to the ideas that each person puts forth, and we talk about them and discuss the pros and cons and the ramifications of them, and so I think this has been a good discussion, and I think we need to be open, and Casey, I appreciate your openness, sharing what you're thinking, because I would rather us talk about it now instead of it keeping somebody up at night, or we wish, I wish I'd mentioned this or said that. So I think this is a good start to what we're doing to begin with, to making this as successful as possible.
This is something we talk about with children, about having them collaborate, but it's based on trust, and if we don't all trust that we're speaking the truth and that we're not going into it with a bias that we've already decided we're not going to do this. I don't care what the discussion is. You've got to be open. You've got to be ready to listen what others say and then vote honestly on what you've heard. These are the things we teach children, and we've got to honor them by our own actions.
So based on that, Mr. Lowe, what do you think we should do for the voting? Since I haven't heard your voice today.
Well, I'm an old FFA guy, and 2/3 and majority are two different things.
Exactly.
2/3 is 2/3, and a majority is 1/2. Okay? So with that being said, if you have 14 people on this team, the only way you're going to have 1/2 is if one person doesn't vote. Because if you've got 7 and 7, then it doesn't pass. If you got 8 and 6, then it's almost 2/3. So I don't really think that I think we're beating a horse that we really don't need to.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
There you go.
Majority is fine.
What about if 2 or more members of the have to vote? You don't have veto power then.
But then it wouldn't pass. Which would mean
I don't know. I'm just looking for a compromise here, because I absolutely understand where, in particular, guys, it's those two right there, because they are so aware of what is possible monetarily. They're also very aware of what one can and cannot do legally from an employer viewpoint.
So what you want to say?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that
Is if 2 on either side say no, then you want to table it.
Then it's tabled for further discussion or something, because that means there's a problem with it. Because I can assure you, if on and I hate to say sides, but I don't know what else to call it. But on this side, if two people or more said no, that means there's a fatal flaw. And it'll never pass with the rest of the board, or it would rarely pass. Let me be quoted that way. There's a flaw somewhere.
And the same thing can be said if say that a proposal was
Did you hear
to.
that? Okay, I wasn't crazy. I'm sorry. I was hearing the national anthem somewhere.
It's only in your mind.
No, it wasn't.
All right. Same thing can be said about if we said that all teachers have to do a portfolio, and maybe at the high school level, should say absolutely not, couldn't do that for whatever reason. Where the elementary said, okay, we're already doing it. Okay, so those issues can work on both sides. So you're saying that if two teachers said no, then it would pass, it would go for more discussion, is what you're saying?
Correct. But that's a table, because
But
there's obviously a weakness to it.
But at what
I
point
mean,
would
if
it
we did
pass?
make a foolish suggestion that every teacher did a portfolio, first of all, most of our houses wouldn't be there the next morning. But that means there's a real problem with this.
How many not passes would you have until there would be a final vote? Because someone could
Okay,
just
but-
kill someone,
But
right?
if we're still looking at 7 and 7, if you've got 2 from either team that votes no, you got 5 that's voting yes. So
No, majority.
you still got a majority.
That's right.
But I understand where you're coming from, trying to get a compromise and stuff.
See, the numbers work out a little better when you have a larger number.
Yeah. But if,
But now, if you only, if we're down to what we decided on 5 members,
Minimum 5 is 10.
then it's a little tighter.
So correct me if the math is wrong. So
I'm just looking for a compromise here.
Yeah.
I just threw that 2 out, guys.
A simple majority, it takes 6 votes, 6 yeses to pass.
Right.
2/3 would be 7.
If there's 10.
oh,
If there's
6 if there's
Yeah,
10.
I'm sorry.
Oh, if there's a- if
Yeah,
there's
I'm sorry, I'm going on
okay.
10.
I'm not good with numbers.
Okay?
That is correct.
Okay, so if all 14 are here, it takes 8 for simple, right?
Right.
9 and a third.
How about 60%? That's a compromise number. It's in between 67, which is 2/3, and 50, which is...
So we're talking one vote difference. It would-
Personally, I think we need to just go ahead and go with the majority.
Yep.
Just in order to keep the discussion talk going and stuff. And if there's a major problem somewhere, I don't think either side's gonna be willing to go forward with something that needs more discussion.
That's correct.
So let me say, so that we all know when it comes up, because it's gonna come up next meeting.
That would stick with majority, I believe is what.
So number 3 would be majority instead of.
I guess I looked at it like, okay, so when the board goes to choose a director of schools, and I don't think it happened this time, but in the past, if it was a split, you know, even if 5 people said this is the person I want, 4 people said this one, well then the next vote, these two have to come out and say, I accept that decision, and I acquiesce, I will give
That's
in,
consensus.
I'm good with this, right? So I think that's really kind of what we did the last time, is we
That's
took
consensus.
majority, but then can you live with this?
That's consensus.
Well, that's why it says consensus. I didn't pick that word, TEA did.
Yeah. I like majority better.
TEA needs to look up.
Definition.
They probably know the definition, that's why they picked that word.
Yeah. I like majority.
Well, I don't think we're ever gonna get everybody to agree. Everything.
Sometimes.
Not everything, you know, some things.
We could vote on this and decide if it's going to be a majority.
Paper
It was
vote
just,
says-
hey, it was just an idea.
Okay, so.
I'm gonna take Dr. Maxwell's
Majority.
positive Polly stance and say, you know what, we're gonna agree on a lot of stuff.
Yes.
We don't agree on
All
lots.
right, on number 3, we're gonna change consensus to majority.
Yes.
Okay, what about the next sentence? It says for collaborative conferencing, consensus is determined.
I changed that to majority as well.
Okay, all right.
And then I added Dr. Maxwell's sentence to, in case of a tie, it will be tabled for further discussion at a later meeting, so we can maybe get more research or, you know, whatever the problem is.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Did we decide on facilitator? Was that how we're going to do?
We got rid of it.
We're not
Mr.
going to
Emmett
have.
said we didn't need one.
Well, I don't want to have to be a facilitator, not get the vote.
I think he said he and this is I think he volunteered.
We'll rein everybody in.
Okay.
You know, honestly, from one meeting to the next, one side might be doing a little more leading or whatever, you know. Do we, the rules, we don't have to have a facilitator.
No, we can mark that out. These were just,
Okay, I
this is
just
just what we
wanted,
did last time, and I just want to tell you the options of what we did last time, so.
well, it's a little bit like a Greek democracy.
I'll tell you, if we've got facilitators, I ain't gonna be one.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna vote.
I'm voting for you, majority rules.
Okay, so what does your calendar look like for April? Because I hope that each of you have a very restful next week, unplug and get some well-deserved rest. So,
The board meeting is the 22nd, correct?
Yes.
So if you want to stick with the board meeting day, it would be the 22nd.
I think that's a good suggestion.
It really is.
It's also Earth Day, just to let you know. Recycle.
Green flowers.
So is 4:30 okay? Is that a good time?
Well,
Do you want earlier?
I think 4 o'clock. Just if we're gonna do it on board meeting day,
4:30.
because, you know, if we're gonna do 2 hours at 4, that's gonna push us up till 6, right after the board meeting. We need time to switch out, because, I mean,
Yeah, you gotta reset
Take
the
that
room.
hat off.
yeah, well, we have to set the room up. and
But
stuff.
can you all get out of your buildings and
Yeah.
be here?
Can you be here at 3:30? No?
I can't be
Okay.
here at 3:30.
4 o'clock?
If you let the principals.
Jim,
know,
that'd
we
be a
can get
long
out.
night for us.
We'll be here at 3:30.
4 o'clock.
She can't.
And not from Crab Orchard.
That's not a
I mean,
She's
that'd be
gotta be here.
3:30.
She's gotta
Four's
be here.
good.
Yeah.
Let's see if we do 2 hours. 3:30.
Yeah, that's what I think.
She's gonna- she
No.
can't
No,
do that.
and
She can't
Gail.
do
Yeah, I
that.
can't get from
It's not too hard on me.
No one's listening.
Brian,
You
Becky.
gotta be here.
I'll just tell them I
Talk fast. Listen fast.
I would say 4 o'clock.
Okay,
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, April 22nd. At 4 o'clock here, we'll leave this room, we'll have it, the mics and everything set up again. We're making progress, this is good.
Look at us agreeing already.
I know, I told you it's gonna be great. It's going to be. Okay, so,
So we're just gonna set a 2-hour time limit, not set the time or the date
And if we
until that
finish early,
meeting.
we don't have to.
We finish early, we finish early.
okay.
I don't foresee us going to 2 hours. Because if we're, like I said, we gotta have time to set up, you know, the board meeting.
Okay.
And we'll set the time, day, and each meeting for the next.
And I like
meeting.
yours where we establish next meeting date and the agenda prior to adjourning, so we'll know what we're to be prepared to talk about.
That's good. So the last, okay, I think we've covered. The last one, that was suggested was cell phone should be off. What are
Yes.
your thoughts? I agree.
Somebody just remind me.
Well,
We will when it goes off.
Give me a call.
I
I'll call you.
I remember turning mine off, well, I put it on silent about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, well, that takes us through meeting, ground rules, meeting norms, meeting dates, meeting places. We are making progress.
Yay.
It is 5:18.
Yeah, I would say we have to.
Article 1, just to throw it out there on everybody's minds, Article 1 consists of the basic provisions of the MOU.
Are there any changes, are y'all
Yeah.
aware of any changes that you
Yeah,
want
that's-
to make to that?
I don't foresee.
I
us
mean, over
needing-
any of it?
We don't need to reinvent the wheel here, okay? If you don't have any changes and we don't have any changes, let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Casey, did you see anything?
No, we just need to update the date in that, top of the
Yeah.
first page 2.
Yes.
And
And there may be definitions that, as they come up, we need to add to it, but that can be, as you well know, later on, as we're going through the whole MOU. So, it's that part, Article 1 is really like a live document that just doesn't close until we're done.
So we can agree on that with possible alterations or
So we have to add
additions to
something.
definitions or, did anybody have a problem with that? We can have a first vote.
Absolutely.
Miracle, all right.
It'd be like a
All right.
That was a consensus.
Feel like
And
we're in a class.
it was unanimous consensus.
Okay, I wanted, that's awesome, see, it's good. I wanted to honor, they wanted to go ahead and begin discussion of Article 2, and I think we should honor that request, but,
We do not have to discuss it. I will let Brian talk about it a little because it is what he delved into, and I know that he talked to Ms. Brain, I know that he talked to Ms. Harris about it. Oh, I already gave you one. So I'm just gonna give you a copy of it. We do not have to discuss this today, because I know salary is a big topic, and it's something, number one, that Ms. Harris really look at and tell us, the nitty gritty. So Brian, do you have yours? You can do your question.
One of the things that we talked about 3 years ago was about the current salary schedule. And I think we felt at the time that the term, we don't have a balanced salary schedule. And when I use the word balance, if you look at the graph on the first page, you see that we have spikes. Now, let me just take you through. So the blue line is the bachelor's. This is percent increase step over step. So what percent increase are we currently getting in the current salary schedule? The master's, the EDS, and the PhD, you see are where you have the spikes. And they start basically in year 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19. And then at year 20, basically, it's pretty flat. Except for the bachelor's goes up a little bit. But basically, everyone above the bachelor's level, you're talking maybe 0.3, 0.5% increase. We're talking just a few dollars. So I think that I've heard from, I've been here now 7 years, I've heard from teachers where, the more veteran teachers, the ones who've been here for a while, saying, I get to 20, and then I'm pretty much flatlined as far as salary is concerned. And so, you guys have been through that system, you're doing it very well. So I started looking at, well, what can we do different? If this is kind of where we're at now, what are some possibilities of, looking at other districts? And if you look at the second page, actually, on the second page at the very top, looked at, again, this is our current salary schedule. I looked at the average percent increase over the 25 years that we currently have on our salary schedule. And so you see the bachelor's degree, on the average, you get 1.1% increase, master's 1.35, EDS 1.56, and PhD the 1.69. And another thing I was interested in is, where is our current teachers? Where do they fall into the steps? So you see that this is aggregate. So 21% of our teachers are currently in step 0 through 4, that 5-year band there. 20% in 5 to 9, 19, 10 to 14, 13 from 15 to 19, 11 from 20 to 24, and you see a big chunk, 25, 17% of our teachers have 25 or more years of service. And so it got me thinking, at 20 years, we're basically saying to these 28% of the teachers, almost not quite a third, you really don't have a salary increase, okay? And so I said, okay, well, let's look at what other districts do. And so I looked at 10 other school districts. Now, these were only districts that I could find their salary schedule that was posted on their website. And I tried to pick districts that were somewhat comparable to ours. So I looked at Roane County, Hamlin County, White County, Blount County, Alcoa City, Knox County, Anderson, Loudoun, Lenoir City, and Overton were the ones that I could easily find their salary schedule on the website. And I started looking at and I don't have I have the details to this, but this is kind of a summary. How do we stack up with our average percent increase over, some districts had a 20-year schedule, some had a 25, some had a 30. I believe one actually, if I remember right, actually had a 40-year schedule. And so I just took their data and I compared them and said, well, where do we fall just with our salary schedule, not with our salary dollars, but just with the percent increase? Where did we fall into those districts? And you see that we pretty much came out either 8th or 9th, depending on the educational level of the 11 districts. And so I started looking at, what made maybe the top 2 or 3, what made them different than what we're doing. And it came into where it seemed like they were, the common theme seemed to be that they had, say, in a 5-year band, they had the same percent increase. And then maybe in the next 5-year band, there might have been an increase, but it was the same for all those years. And then maybe it dropped, so it wasn't all consistent across the board, but they kind of did what I would call in band steps, if you will, percent increases. So that led me to believe, maybe I'll take a look at what ours would look like. And so on option 1, on the next one, and this is, I'm going to call it option 1, it was just kind of like, okay, what happens if we took, instead of having the peaks and valleys, if you will, of our salary schedule, if we just kind of said, okay, we're going to get the same all the way across. And so, those percentages, year 25, the year why it goes up a little bit is because the numbers don't work out perfectly all the way across. But basically, that would cost us about $24.4 million. Maybe I should go back to the first page and just kind of review where we are today. Again, there's a little bit of, I'll report it and maybe have a little discussion about it. Currently, Ms. Bray and Ms. Harris also gave me information that I could do all this analysis, which I really appreciate. And so at this point, from this great spreadsheet, our current salaries of all the 576 teachers was $27.2 million. If I looked at when I put those teachers where they were on our current pay scale, I only could come up with $25.1 million. So I think the difference, which I noted there, is that not all teachers at the degree level and step are on the salary schedule. Some are grandfathered in, or the career ladders that I guess was here before my time, which many of you probably may be on, okay? Or other authorized variations, but not all teachers, it wasn't consistent across the board, okay? And I don't want to have a discussion necessarily on that. That's, I don't know the reasons, I don't need to know the reasons why. But you see there's a difference in that. I was looking at more than 25 million, sorry, that I could account for, okay? So I compared all my numbers to that 25 million number. Okay, do we want to, I want to stop here, great. We're a little concerned about my numbers.
Go ahead.
No, okay.
But I should say at this point, and I think we need to explain this.
Sure.
What I gave Brian was just teachers. It had all administrators, all supervisors, all of that was covered. This is pure
Just teachers.
classroom teachers.
Yeah. And some of them were at the district level.
Correct.
So-
But they're still,
Correct.
they're not a supervisor or a principal or assistant principal.
Yeah. Okay. So the 25.1 million is kind of where I said, okay, here's where we're at today. All right. Now back to the option one, which was, okay, give everyone a consistent across the board, percent increase, so that every year they could count on 1.1 or 1.35 or whatever. Actually, that came out to be 24.4 million, which actually would save us money if we did that. Now that would be a good thing. Unfortunately, probably not all the teachers would be happy with that, because it's certainly, there's some areas where then they're getting less money than they are today. And we can't do that. That's illegal.
Yeah.
So,
It would be illegal.
therefore, the proposal, I just called it a proposal, is I looked at the numbers and I said, okay, well, what happens if in every 5-year band, we had certain percent increases at each level, each educational level. So they'd start off 0 to 4 would be the exact same thing as what we're there at today, with a percent. Well, it would be the 1% or the 1.35 or 1 point, whatever average percent there was. Then in years 5 through 9, everyone would go up to a 3% increase through those years. And then years 10 through 14, they would go back down to the average percent increase that we have today. And then starting at 15 would vary. The bachelor's degree would be at 2%, the master's, EDS, and PhD would be 3%, up through year 20. And then at year 20, the PhD would go to 4%, the EDS, and I don't know if it really showed very well, but the EDS and the master's would both be at 3%, and then going up to year 25, then 25, we would drop everyone back to a 2% level. Okay? And you're like, okay, well, how much is that going to cost us? Well, according to my numbers, it would be 26.4 million, which is an increase of 1.3 million, or approximately aggregately 4.35% increase over what basically that percentage, basically gave you the number, a rough number, which I know it fluctuates every year.
Yeah.
301,000 for every 1% increase in teachers. Okay, so that's, I just took the 1.3 million divided by 301,000 and got that 4.35. And the one thing that I noted there is that by doing this, it doesn't change the base salary. We didn't change the base. We just changed the percentages through the steps. So this is something that even our the CCEA, I just presented this to them a couple days ago. It's certainly, you know, we can certainly tweak this. It's just a model that because other districts have done a similar thing, and so I just looked at and I took their percentages, not even some are much higher than that. But I thought, well, what would be reasonable? And so it's a starting place. So, discussion?
No, I just.
I guess maybe I'll just conclude with this.
Oh.
You know, one thing that, on principle, the one thing that we didn't like about today's salary schedule is that it doesn't really reward service loyalty and longevity. Where we felt that maybe this model does reward those who stay with the district longer. And gentlemen, you could probably speak to that. The other thing was, you know, with the peaks and valleys, it's hard to, as an individual, it's hard to kind of schedule or kind of plan your life when you say, okay, well, next year I'm going to get a 2.8% increase, but the following year I'm only going to get a 0.3% increase. And that, you know, most people don't think that way. Most people don't think, okay, well, next year I'm going to get this really big boost to my income, and the following year, not so much. And so I think this would be just something that people could say, okay, during these 5 years, this is kind of what I'm going to be making, given that I'm currently staying on the same professional level. So.
Well, I'd like to say this is an immense amount of work, and thank you very much for digging in. I know it's not always fun to deep dive into the salary schedules. A couple things just to kind of add to that. You know, we know our salary schedule, the steps are wonky, for lack of a better word, and we've looked at that. A couple years ago, when we did an employee salary study focus group, and we brought to their attention that, here's kind of, and it is, you can look at our salary schedule and see, 1 year you might get a 2% step, and 1 year you might get a 0.25% step, and then, if you have a different degree on that same step, there's a multitude of reasons kind of why it ended up that way. There's a lot of factors pulling on that salary scale. At that point, we took a vote to the teachers and said, here's all the issues with salary that committee came up with. Tell us what you would like to focus on. And at that time, I realize that's been a couple years, but at that time the results did come back. They said, you know what? Yeah, we're not a big fan of that, but we would rather you focus on that maximizing our district-wide raise every year, maximizing that average salary overall. So I think that's an important point to throw out. Number one, so I'd be interested to see, how big a deal to all of our teachers is the steps versus just trying to increase it, period. Are they more concerned year to year or maximize me out for, this year and hopefully do the same thing again next year? That's kind of where my mind goes to. Another point I'd like to make, with the bands on the proposal on that back page, that is more similar to the state salary schedule, which is one of those many reasons I said, while ago why our salary schedule is a little bit off kilter. The state really doesn't care so much about steps. You've got to have a year zero, and they set that minimum every year, and they set it like May 28th, which is really hard for us. So they care at year 0, year 5, I think it's year 11, and they don't care what you do in between. So a lot of districts have adopted that, well, we're going to meet these points and then keep it level in between.
And they only recognize bachelor's and master's.
Right.
And you
that's
said that at that
another-
salary meeting we went to, because I was there,
Yeah.
and you were there, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what several districts, and I know that's getting into some, and I'm not supporting this statement, but just for exploration, a lot of districts do recognize your bachelor's and advanced. And that's probably because the state just recognizes those 2 degrees. And that way they're not waiting on May 28th to see what that state's minimum salary is. Because if the minimum goes up, we can't just adjust bachelor year 0 and advanced degree year 0 because there's a domino effect. So then we have to go in and artificially manipulate. So unless we really almost mirrored that state, we'd be having the same problem. Again, those percent steps would be off because of those minimums we have to meet. Does that make sense? That's probably way too much information overload. But that's just a little bit to add to this.
Sorry about this one.
Yeah. And I would like to, on the front page, just draw attention, those numbers are to the base salary there. And I just, as part of good faith, and to show, I hope that this team and teams before us have shown the commitment to, we get teachers need more pay, and we will be willing to do, whatever we can to increase that number. Just since, and it's not because of me, but I've been lucky enough to be a part of, the 4 years since I've been here, it's over 80%. We've been able to do those district-wide raises. I know it's not enough, but I do just want you all to know that we get it. We hear that, we know our average salary is not where it needs to be. We do want to improve it. And that would be my biggest interest is, really before we dive too deep into it, are we going to have buy-in from the majority of our teachers? Do they want us to spend $1.3 million fixing the scale, which is kind of like a fix it, not and forget it, but a fix it and then, take it from there? Or are they more concerned about maximizing my salary next year?
But Casey, Ms. Harris, the teachers have agreed for us to collaborate for them, okay? And so they've agreed for us to collaborate. We don't need to go out and ask them. We're talking to them. That's why we're here. Second thing I'd like to say is I was at that salary committee meeting. It was, what do we want to take to the Board of Education? And it was only one option. I, for one, said we should keep studying all these things. So we only had one thing that we could take to the board. Well, given pay raises or fixing the scales, what are you going to take to the board? Of course everyone wanted pay raises. That was the only option. So going back to there, but we have teacher buy-in. They've agreed for us to collaborate for them. So there's nothing we need to, in my opinion, I'm talking to teachers at my school. Everything should be on the table. Why is just one thing on the table? It's not, to me, it shouldn't be either or. I was upset at the salary schedule because we never continued with anything. We went in, did all this work. Okay, so that's my point. My point is we are representing the teachers.
Well, and one thing that, because I'm on the tail end of the salary schedule. Now, am I ever going to get to where Gail's at? No. No, you are very ambitious, my friend, and I love you, but 40 plus is not going to be me. But when you look at how it, and you said it, flatlines, I'm not rewarded past 20 years to stay. I could retire at 20 years. Yeah, I'm not going to get a lot of pay, but I could go and do something else and make more money somewhere. But you're losing all that experience when we leave. I mean, it's great to recruit young teachers, as y'all know, but you want to keep them. Once you've trained them and they're training the newbies, you know, and helping them, there's a wealth of knowledge in people like you. So, but that salary schedule doesn't show that. It's like, okay, you're here 20 years, we've got you, we don't have to pay you anymore.
Yeah.
So-
We've lived that.
Yeah.
Have you looked into adding more or requesting the addition of more steps? I mean, at 25, at 30?
Yeah, we took this to 30.
Right. So this is part of the request.
Yeah, that's part of the request is to take it to 30 because right now it stops at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it does much for me
The
at
reason for
25,
30
but
was just because of the retirement.
Retirement, full retirement,
Right.
yeah, sure.
because you get retirement on your highest 5, as you well know.
Very well.
It's time for us to adjourn
Yeah,
because we got to swap.
Yeah, we need to wrap it up.
Right. But we just wanted to give this to you so you could look at it.
Yeah.
Please bring your notes back April 22nd. This is not obviously let's all vote on this right this minute. It's we got to talk about it. It's going to
This
take
is
a
our
while.
starting.
And
So,
again, Brian, thank you so much for the
Yes,
time
Brian, thank you.
that
There was a lot of
put
work.
into this.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
So,
okay. I'm right there with you.
All right. Thank y'all.